Welcome to the Evergreen RX, your prescription for living well. Here, we're all about self-exploration, intentionality, and working with our mind, body, and soul for healing and growth. I'm your host, Hayden. I'm in my 20s and in search of connection, fulfillment, and ways to make sense of the world. If you're down, join me as I explore tools to bridge the gap between external reality and our deep inner worlds, discovering our own prescriptions for health, wholeness, and expansion. Hello, welcome to the Evergreen RX. I'm so excited to be getting started with this podcast today. I'm also a little bit nervous. I'd be lying if I said I hadn't re-recorded this quite a few times at this point. But yeah, I'm very excited about today's topic of freeing yourself through ritual. So let's break that down a little bit. What does it mean? What do I mean by ritual? And what do I mean about freeing yourself? How is a ritual going to free you? Well, first off, ritual was a really pretty word that I decided to use for routine when I was naming this episode. And I think that routine and ritual I can use interchangeably and they essentially mean the same thing, but I do want to explore just for a second what it feels like to call something a routine versus a ritual. So, we kind of all, when you think of routine, at least what that conjures up for me is a morning routine, a night routine, an exercise routine, stuff like that. That's pretty mundane, pretty day-to-day. And when I say ritual, I think of something a little bit more mystical or magical, like baths and candles and self-care, something more like luxurious, which I think is really interesting. And I like the idea of exploring the difference between that because I think it empowers us to choose our intention behind, what we're calling our routine or ritual, and to also think of ways to infuse ritual even in something that feels a little bit more routine. If you have a morning routine, brush your teeth, brush your hair, all that. If you maybe think some days like, how can I make this more of a ritual? How can I incorporate some extra self-care or uniqueness or something special into what I'm doing? Because why does it have to be a special occasion for us to make a ritual out of what we do and the way that we spend our time each day? So, that's, take with that what you will, but it was something that was interesting that came up for me when I was really thinking about why I chose the word ritual and what that conjures up for me versus the word routine. So that's one piece. We're going to talk about routines, kind of how to create them, what they look like, intentions behind them, what to do when they're interrupted, common interruptions to your routine, all that. And then really the overarching idea behind why this is an important topic is that I feel that ritual and routine are the foundations to wellness, to holistic health, to living well, and everything that you build off of there. My journey with wellness really started, I would say, in 6th grade when I made a routine. 6th grade, it's like you start wearing deodorant, washing your face. I got a little day cream with some sunscreen in it. And so I'm doing more than just brushing my teeth. And I think it's in my personality and also maybe the fact that I'm a Taurus that I really started to make a routine out of that pretty quickly. I wanted to minimize the decisions I had to make in the morning. It helps me remember what to do, remember, the order I do it in, and just made it so automatic so that I could feel good and ready for the day each day with minimal effort. So that, for me, is the beginning of this journey of finding ways to be fulfilled, to feel good, to feel more present and taken care of in my day-to-day life. Nowadays, because it's been so ingrained in me, if I don't get to do a part of my routine, I feel thrown off. I mean, I legitimately have dreams where I still have my retainers in. Yes, I still wear my retainers at night. I will have dreams where I have my retainers in and I'm going about my life, and I'm so stressed out in my dreams because all I want to do is take my retainers out and brush my teeth because I feel like I can't even like interact with people. I'm still like basically asleep because I haven't done anything to get ready for the day. I mean, that's how like I think foundational routines can be to our mindset starting out the day and to how we feel ready to tackle things and to address whatever may come in that day, whether it's a weekday or a weekend, just being ready for whatever the day holds. So yeah, I think that building solid, strong routines and rituals can be a major part of creating a wellness and self-care is so overused, but sometimes it gets the job done. Creating that kind of lifestyle for yourself or adding to it, expanding on it, and making it even more robust, I think routines and rituals are at the heart of that. I am still creating new rituals for myself all the time. And so let's talk a little bit about intentions with routines. I think that these really differ based on personalities, whatever motivating factors you have for creating a routine. I think also different rituals have different intentions around them. But why I think intentions are important when you're creating a new system for yourself is that's how we feel motivated to keep up with it. That's how we make meaning out of what we're doing. I think if somebody came in and just made a routine for me, well, a good example would be like an exercise routine. If they just made it for me and were like, you got to do this every day at 2 p.m., guess what I would not be doing at 2 p.m.? I mean, there would be no motivating factor for that in me. And, I mean, health, I get it, exercising, but whatever. That's not the point. I would need to make sense out of what that is giving me and how it works into my day. And I would also, want to create it in a way that feels good for me specifically to be able to keep up with it. I think my example of a morning routine is a really good one to revisit because there are certain people that I know would be like suffocated by the way that I do my morning routine and that I do it every day of the week, first thing waking up, in the same order basically. That might not work because for me, that gives me consistency and comfort. And for other people, it might feel like rigid and too structured. So I think that's really the first step into creating a successful, sustainable routine. And to do that, you can maybe sit down with a journal or just a to-do list, notepad, or talk to somebody about it. Whatever way helps you kind of flesh out ideas best. And you can kind of think, okay, what is it that I would feel good with starting each day out with? I want to brush my teeth. I like to shower. Maybe I like to go out and get a little sun or drink a glass of water. Whatever those things are for you, a good way to also figure that out is to look at what you typically do. Maybe if there's not some certain structure to it, just looking at what it is you typically do and then kind of being more concrete about those things. But really laying out what it is that you want to include and then the feelings that you want it to give you. And I mean, I think this can be a formal process or an informal process depending on where you're at. And maybe even some routines that you have already and you want to refresh or you're feeling a little bit burnt out on. Just looking at what it is that those give you, how they're serving you. The point here with creating an intention and getting really clear on why you're doing what you're doing and when you want to do it and how you want to do it is to make it just totally customizable. So let me give a few examples of different types of routines and rituals. We've been talking a lot about the morning routine. That one's pretty basic. Night routine. A lot of times those center around hygiene, but there's a lot of other rituals and routines that you can incorporate into your life, whether on a daily, weekly, monthly basis, that can create more of that ease and more of that freedom and space mentally to be able to do other things that you like. Because I think going back to that idea of what ritual frees you from, it's decision making. It's, it frees you from just having to reinvent the wheel every time, but it also frees up that mental capacity for other things. Like if you know that your hygiene's pretty taken care of, that your house is taken care of, that some of your responsibilities that you have regular check-ins for, that gives you more space to use your brain power for new or novel experiences, or for your project at work, or your hobby, or having fun. I don't know. But some other examples of routines can look like a weekly reset routine. I'm a huge fan of this. This came around more so in college. You've got to do your laundry, you start to have to buy groceries and cook and do the dishes and, I don't know, just other adult responsibilities. And I really started to figure out that for me, Sundays works best to reset all of that. So basically what I mean is on Sundays, I wake up and pull out all the dirty laundry. I get the washer going, do any of the dishes that are left over, any leftovers from the fridge that are ready to be thrown out, I throw them out and clean the dishes out, make a meal plan, and go to the grocery store. I think you're getting a sense for my personality. I'm a little bit detailed and I do a lot, but that's what I mean. You pick and choose, and this is just an example, but I started grouping all of those activities onto one day as my, Sunday reset day, where the house is clean and there's food in the fridge and, different tasks that have piled up from the week are handled. And that does two things for me. It makes me feel good starting out the week. It's kind of like the ultimate morning routine. It's like Sunday is almost a morning for the rest of the week, because it's just how you set yourself up for success. But it also means that throughout the rest of the week, I don't have to be stressing over these things. I don't have to be stressing over the laundry piling up or the, groceries dwindling or my desk getting messy. I don't have to really concern myself as much because I know I have some time set aside to handle it. So, what does that free me up to do? Well, let's say I get home from a day at work and I have a few hours before dinner and my desk is kind of messy, or there's some, the fridge has gotten a little crazy throughout the week. Instead of putting pressure on myself to handle it right then and there, I can tell myself, that's going to be handled. I have a time and a place for that. And so I'm going to prioritize something else that matters to me. I'm going to prioritize, reading my book, or maybe a different ritual that I have that I like to do in the evenings. I think, to make a long story short, it's the concept that when you have decided time, a time and a place for certain activities to take place, they just get to get off of your head. They don't have to live rent-free in your mind where you're constantly trying to figure out when it's going to happen. Week to week, if you're wondering, oh God, I haven't done the laundry in so long and now it's piling up, and am I going to do it tomorrow? No, I can't do it tomorrow. I can do it. That takes up so much more of our mental space and our energy and our capacity than I think we even realize. So that's an example. the Sunday reset, the Monday reset, whatever day of the week reset you want it to be. Some other examples that are maybe a little more fun or some more ritual type things, I would say. So a ritual that I've really started to, well, it's attached. I'm a big morning person, so I like to do a lot of stuff in the morning and I feel like the most focused then. And so, I have my typical morning routine, and then I would say maybe my more luxurious morning routine or maybe my morning ritual when I have more time, which means outside of just the hygiene, putting on my makeup, getting dressed for the day, I do some yoga. And then I do a little meditation. And I pull out my journal. I pull a tarot card or an oracle card. And I spend some time really going internal and checking in with myself. That's a little ritual in and of itself. And it got created out of the space of just realizing that I did all of these things around the same time, or I felt like I was in a place. Like when I do yoga, it kind of sets me up for a really good space to meditate because I'm already a little bit in tune and checked in with my breath. And when I meditate, then I kind of want to pull a card because I have the focus and the intention to interpret it and to make sense of it and to really think deeply on how it impacts my life. Like all of those things work really well in tandem. So making more of a ritual out of it, it helps things build off of each other. And I feel like I'm able to kind of get added benefit from it and really take that space and time for myself. So yeah, there's a few examples. And, I think that I'd be really interested to hear any ritual or routine that's really important to anyone listening. Something maybe I didn't say, and to just invite you to explore some of the ways that you already have routine, and also some of the places where you feel it would help you prioritize the things that are really important to you. So let's say now you've got some rituals down, you got some routines, you're feeling good. It's kind of almost like that New Year's feeling if you set resolutions and goals, and it's like that first week of January, things are like so awesome and you're on it and you're feeling good. And then what happens? Life gets in the way. So I want to talk a little bit about some interruptions because I know with my personality, I don't like interruptions to my routines. It throws me off. I can feel, just off kilter, more distracted, and it can be harder to re-engage, to kind of get back on the wheel, on the wagon once you've fallen off. So I want to just talk about some of those common interruptions because maybe if we know what they are, then it's a little bit easier to anticipate and to know that that's just a part of life. So some common routine blockers. On the macro, these can look like vacation or illness, getting sick, or moving, or maybe it's the change of a semester and your schedule changes, or you move back home, or anything like that. And on the micro level, appointments, the only time that they have them is right in the middle of one of your routines, and it kind of throws off your schedule. Or if you accidentally sleep in, that can be a big one, or not even on an accident. You just sleep in and you have less time. Or you get to bed late because you were out seeing a movie or going to a show or some other thing that was fun and unique. I think there's big things, like I was saying, which is, if you're going on vacation, you're going to be gone, you're going to be out of your routine for how long that vacation is. And getting back can take a little bit of time to get back into that routine. So what do you do when your routines get thrown off? Well, one thing is you give yourself some grace. I would say that this is a newer lesson for me that I'm still trying to grasp. But there is a natural ebb and flow to life. As much as we want to make these routines and rituals and stick to them and be consistent, things will get in the way. I mean, I think a good example is even just like the natural ebb and flow of our energy, and for people that menstruate, our cycle, where we're at, how we're mentally doing. All of those things are a part of life, and the more flexible we can be with them, the better. So I think when you're creating a new routine, maybe don't create one right before you go on vacation. But when you're first creating it, being consistent with it, really sticking with it, forming that habit, that is helpful. It takes us a while to make a new habit and to make something routine enough to where we don't have to think about it. We just kind of do it. But once we get that established, allowing back in space for that flexibility is what makes it sustainable. So, for example, the past week, I have been having a hard time getting up in the morning. I don't know what it is. I'm having allergies, and I don't know if my sleep's just not as quality, but I just hit snooze and snooze and snooze, and I just want to keep sleeping, and I'm groggy when I get up. And then I have less time before I have to go to work. What I have been discovering, and maybe we can learn together, is that being easier on myself in those times helps me get a better vantage point for what I can, remove from the routine and what I want to keep in, and how to adjust it for the amount of time that I do have. What else I did this week that really helped me with my routines looking a little bit different was to just be kind with where I was at. I think part of it is the awareness that there's ebb and flow, and we're not going to be the same person every single morning when we wake up with the same energy and, the same schedule and all of that. I mean, we're not robots. So just understanding that's part of it, and being kind for the fact that sometimes an interruption can be a good thing. It gives you a little break from your routine. You mix it up. Maybe you learn something new that you like to do. Maybe when you're on vacation, you went on a walk every morning before breakfast, and that's something you want to incorporate into your routine when you're home. We're always information gathering on what makes us feel good at this given moment in time in our life. So I think making some space that one day or a week or even longer out of a routine doesn't mean that if it's something we're being called back to, we'll never get back to it. I think this is also a good opportunity to start to touch in with your intuition, which is something we'll actually talk about in the next episode more. But routines are a really great place to continually ask yourself what feels good and to circle back to that intention that you set when creating it in the first place. During COVID, I started kind of a workout routine. Every morning in my apartment, I would put on a workout video and I would do it before getting dressed and before eating breakfast for the day. And that was good, and it made me feel good because, I wasn't going anywhere else, so it helped to move. But as things started to shift and I was going out more and had, other stuff going on in my life, it started to feel less and less good. It felt more like a chore. So that was a good time for me to reevaluate that my intention was no longer being fulfilled. And I could figure out different ways to exercise or to move without it having to be so strict, without it being at that same time, without it being the same exercise. When we are constantly evaluating what feels good and what doesn't, that's how we get in touch with our intuition. Leaving space to go with the flow, even within that structure. And I know that this might sound a little bit contradictory now because I'm like, have structure, it frees you, it's amazing. And then it's like, don't worry about the structure, let there be flexibility. But I mean, that's a gray area we're living in. That's how life works. It's the ebb and flow. But I do think, and I think this can sound like a paradox, but I do think when you have structure, it can allow you to open more space into that natural flow and call from your internal knowing. Because most of the time, if you do something every day, it's a routine, that can feel pretty good and you get it done and it's off your head. But if a certain day you're feeling this pull or this call to do something a little different, listen to it. It's almost like, a loving parenting. You want to give your kids structure and rules and like a box to play in so that they can freely explore without things being so expansive. Because that's overwhelming. If we have zero structure to our day, it's almost too much. It can be too much. There's too many decisions. We get into decision fatigue. We are overwhelmed. It feels like, God, how can I even choose anything? But when we have that structure, we have those rules and those boundaries that we lovingly place there for ourselves, then we can explore and play within it. Because we've taken like the world down to a size that is like digestible. We don't have to worry about everything all at once. So maybe that's getting a little philosophical for talking about routines, but I'm huge on them. I love a routine. I love a ritual. So, you can let me know how that resonates with you. And please, if you feel totally different, I would love to hear about it. I want this to be a conversation. I want it to be open. And while I hope I provide, some interesting food for thought or helpful examples or guidance on how to go about some of these topics of wellness and wholeness and intentional living, I'm also really open to understanding where other people are coming from so that we can navigate it all together. That's the piece of this podcast that's so important to me about, I am in my 20s. I don't have it all figured out. I really care about this topic. I really put a lot of thought into it, but I also don't have everything figured out, and how I feel today might totally be different next week. That's that gray area. We think we need to have it all figured out, and we really don't. So I'm deciding to start a podcast before I have everything figured out. So I'll be the one to be held accountable for the shit that I say when I'm 23. But yeah, that's a little bit on ritual, on routine, on how you free yourself, on some examples of routines and rituals that I like, some common interruptions that can get in the way. So, since this is the evergreen prescription, here is your dose. My challenge to you is to find consistency in something you do every day already. Just examine, maybe over the next couple of days, something you find yourself doing repeatedly and how it makes you feel. And then looking for ways that you can maybe combine some of those activities and create these systems. Say there's something really important to you that you wish you did every day. Maybe you can incorporate that into a system with something you already do to ease into creating that daily ritual out of it. Daily or weekly or monthly, I don't know, but you get the point. And something for you to chew on and maybe ask yourself as you turn off this podcast and continue on with your day is, what rituals do you already participate in and how do they serve you? This is a question I think I could really do with asking myself, because a trap that I can fall into is doing something just because it's routine when it is no longer serving me. That's another, I think, Taurus thing. It's a little bit of being a bull. So anyway, if you liked this podcast, go ahead and, follow so you can know when I post next. Our next episode is going to be all about intuition. So if you're into that, then please stick around. It's a topic I'm also really into. And yeah, find me on Instagram if you want to engage. If you want to talk, just send me a DM. If you have questions or thoughts or something that you'd like to share with me, then you can find me over on Instagram. And yeah, I hope you have a great rest of your day. And I'm super excited for you and all the new rituals you may create. Thanks so much for listening, and I'll catch you in the next one.